Kingdom Hearts is an unexpected franchise that was the product of two well-known but extremely contrasting entities, Final Fantasy and Disney. Final Fantasy is famous for its games involving cataclysmic world events, heavy topics such as existentialism and religion, and well-written characters finding their meaning in their respective games. Disney is almost synonymous with Mickey Mouse and other movies depicting folklore and stories from all over the world with family-friendly packaging. In 2002, no one expected the game to succeed. With the 20th anniversary of Kingdom Hearts happening this year, I took the liberty of sharing my love for the series through this Iceberg video. I'll be using the Iceberg image created by Reddit user rasputinjesus, and I'll be providing a link to the original Reddit post on the description of this video. If you are unfamiliar with the concept of Iceberg videos, they typically deal with the more known facts and trivia of a subject and dwell deeper into the more obscure ones, thus making the nature of this video full of spoilers and story-related points. So be warned. Without further ado, I would like to present to you the ultimate Kingdom Hearts Iceberg, the story so far, 041022 over 7036 days. Tier 1. Kurt, Ziza, and the Phantom. Kurt, Ziza, and the Phantom are optional bosses found in the first Kingdom Hearts game. Kurt, Ziza was named after the winner of Kingdom Hearts Name in a Game, a contest held in New York 2 months before the game's Western release. It is a massive, gold, and cream-colored heartless with 6 arms and wields 2 crescent-shaped swords. The player can fight Kurt Ziza by talking to the magic carpet in Aladdin's house, after sealing the keyhole in Hollow Bastion. The Phantom is found in the world of Neverland. It possesses the Clock Tower, and the player cannot receive the Arly treasures while the Phantom is undefeated. It fights mainly with magic. The Phantom appears as a cloak-like figure with tattered seams and has a gray and cyan gradient color scheme. Unlike Kurt Ziza, the Phantom received an updated color palette in the final mix version of the game. The gray and cyan gradient was replaced by a predominantly white base and smoky black decals in its arms. Xemnas in KH1. Xemnas, the head of Organization 13, not to be confused with the new Organization 13, appears as an optional boss in the final mix version of the first game. His face is not shown to Sora and the party, and he does not speak throughout the encounter. The community also knows him as either the Enigmatic Man or Unknown. The name fits because based on the timeline, the series did not yet introduce Xemnas' character in the game's story. He uses his signature dual lightsaber-like weapon and laser beam projectiles. The player may attempt to fight the Enigmatic Man when you unlock access to the end of the world. You should then proceed to Hollow Bastion and head to the portal, which transfers you to the room where you fight Dragon Maleficent. Disney Castle in Kingdom Hearts 1. Although shown in some cutscenes, mainly the part where Donald learns about Mickey's departure and reports it immediately to Goofy, Disney Castle was not accessible to the player or Sora. Disney Castle was supposed to be a playable area in the game, but it was removed. It is unknown why this is, but the player may access the world thanks to cheating devices. Original Sora concept art. Sora's original look was similar to a lion and boy hybrid. His clothes were based on Mickey Mouse, sporting red shorts, big yellow shoes, and white gloves. Along with the unusual look, Sora's Kingdom Key was also supposed to be similar to a sword with a chainsaw-like blade. He wears a crown, and the keychain attached to his weapon is identical to the keychain in Squallion Heart's Gunblade. Another contributing factor to Sora's final KH1 design was theorized to be influenced by Sion Barzad, a character from the game The Bouncer, a game also designed by Tetsuya Nomura. Examining the two characters side by side shows similarities like the spiky brown hair, the wallet chain, and the short-sleeved zipper hoodie. Jungle Book in Birth by Sleep. Another world removed from the final version of the game is the Jungle Book world from Birth by Sleep. It is unknown why the developers cut the world. Its existence was only discovered by a PSP hacker named Erx. He found the remains of the world in Birth by Sleep. The world has a room that depicts Louis' throne room. There are also areas where the village is located and segue heading to said area. The incident was not the first time the Jungle Book was scrapped, as it was also supposed to appear in the first game but was ultimately replaced by Deep Jungle, or Tarzan's World, adult Roxas promo art. Before the release of Birth by Sleep, 358 over 2 days encoded, an official visual art was released to tease fans about the upcoming games. We see various characters from the 3 games, but an odd observation from the art is that Roxas looks quite mature compared to his appearance at the start of Kingdom Hearts 2. Theories across the community discussed the bizarre depiction of Roxas, and fans were left wondering when and how this came to be. It was concluded that the mature portrayal of Roxas was only an effect of Tetsuya Nomura's evolving art style as a character designer. The Cydia NT in Toy Box. In Kingdom Hearts 3's Toy Box world, there is a section for the Cydia NT in the toy store. This is a reference to the Final Fantasy Dissidia NT, a battle arena game involving Final Fantasy protagonist and antagonist throughout the series. Tidus in Traverse Town. Tidus appears in Destiny Islands during the start of the first game. He seems to be younger than his original counterpart and is seen to be around Sora's age. He wears black shorts, sandals, and a yellow and white shirt. When Sora arrives in Traverse Town, the player may encounter an NPC with the same character model as Tidus, but it has some tweaked appearance in it. The unnamed NPC wears an orange and white shirt, green shorts, and yellow sandals instead. Lingering Will. Lingering Will is an optional boss in Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix. He can be fought when the player unlocks the secret ending. Once opened, a portal leading to the Keyblade Graveyard appears in Disney Castle's Hall of the Cornerstone. After defeating the Lingering Will, the player is rewarded with a Proof of Connection, which changes the appearance of Sora's crown. The Lingering Wheel can be fought again by leaving the area and returning to the Keyblade Graveyard. Elevator Pitch. Kingdom Hearts as a concept was conceived during a literal elevator pitch. The developers in Squaresoft, now known as Square Enix, were planning a game that could rival the success of Super Mario 64. They concluded that it could only be successful if the game's protagonists were from a well-known franchise. Luckily, Disney and Squaresoft shared the same building in their offices in Japan, and a mundane ride in the elevator became the origins of this beloved series. Beta Logo. During the beta trailer of the first Kingdom Hearts game, the logo is shown as similar but also different from the one that we got. It sported the iconic Kingdom Hearts font, but only for the Hearts portion of the title. The Kingdom part used a different font with a golden hue, contrasting the gunmetal gray of the Hearts font. Bahamut Summon. Bahamut is a summonable creature in the Final Fantasy series. It is iconic and considered the strongest summon due to its catastrophic signature attack, which is Mega Flare. In other appearances, Bahamut uses Terra Flare, Giga Flare, or Exa Flare, which are all devastating in their own rights. The developers initially considered including Bahamut as a summon for Sora in the first game. However, the developers also cut it out for unknown reasons. Fortunately, through cheat devices, Bahamut can be seen in the list of summonable characters in Sora's command list. However, picking the Bahamut option will freeze the game as the assets for said summon are not available in the game's files. Sora's outfit is inspired by Mickey. At first glance, it is pretty apparent that Mickey Mouse's classic look inspired Sora's overall appearance. They both share red shorts, big yellow shoes, and white gloves. The black hoodie also mirrors the bare black torso that the classic Mickey look sports. Eraqus is square. Eraqus is the master of the Wayfinder trio, Aqua, Terra, and Ven. He is also the best friend of Master Xehanort. Similar to Yansid being the anagram of Disney, Eraqus's name is also an anagram for Square, a shortened name of either Square Enix or Squaresoft, the other half of the Kingdom Hearts franchise. Young Xehanort in Birth by Sleep. Young Xehanort is the version of Xehanort that was first formally introduced in Dream Drop Distance. He had the power to control time and was able to join the new Organization 13's rank thanks to Master Xehanort's planning. Aside from the events of Dream Drop Distance, the player may also encounter the young Xehanort unknowingly in Birth by Sleep. In Birth by Sleep, he appears as an optional secret boss located in the Land of Departure. Mickey was the protagonist. In light of the original discussion of beating Mario 64 with the help of a more iconic character, the developers in Squaresoft at the time wanted Mickey Mouse to be the protagonist of the upcoming game. But due to Disney restricting using Mickey for this, they opted to have Donald Duck as the protagonist instead. But Tetsuya Nomura, the character designer and director of Kingdom Hearts, wanted a humanoid protagonist, thus the birth of Sora. Sora's general look was loosely based on Mickey Mouse's classic look. Toy Story in Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2. Toy Story's world first appeared in Kingdom Hearts 3. But the developers already made assets for the world during the development of both KH1 and KH2. In KH1, the Toy Story world's icon is already in the game's files. But due to licensing issues, Kingdom Hearts 1 being released in 2002, and Disney only acquiring Pixar in 2006, the developers did not include the world in the game. In Kingdom Hearts 2, models for the summonable Woody and Buzz Lightyear exist within the game's files. But due to unknown reasons, they were also cut in the second game. My headcanon is similar to the reason of why the developers did not include the Toy Story world in the first game, and is also related to licensing. Mrs. Potts and Chip in Deep Jungle. The mother and child characters from The Beauty and the Beast, Mrs. Potts and Chip, can be seen in Kingdom Hearts 1. To be specific, they are located in Deep Jungle's campsite area. On top of the pink table, Mrs. Potts and Chip are seen. Tier 2. KH1 Animated Series Pilot. The first game almost had an animated series. The idea of it being a cartoon series was finalized as a better alternative in terms of shelf life than making a Kingdom Hearts movie. The pilot was supposed to set in Agrabah. The director took inspiration from Cowboy Bebop in creating the pilot. The idea for the series was supposed to have closed endings with an overarching plot. The director decided on this approach to suit the multi-world adventures of Sora, Donald, and Goofy. Seth Kersley, the director of the pilot, wanted to release the unaired pilot on YouTube. But due to the series being owned by Disney, he simply cannot do that without their permission. The storyboard for this pilot episode is floating around on the internet. It is posted by the director in his DeviantArt account. Unused Keyblades. Aside from the mentioned worlds and summons, there are also unused Keyblades throughout the series. In Kingdom Hearts 2, there are two unused weapons for Sora, the Edge of Ultima and the Detection Saber. The Edge of Ultima and the Detection Saber both have the appearance of KH2's depiction of the Ultima weapon, the difference being their size and colors. There are no pictures for these Keyblades, but both Keyblades use the same effects as Oblivions. In Dream Drop Distance, Kingdom Key D was listed in Riku's Keyblades, but was never used in the actual game. In Kingdom Hearts Chi, the Fairy Star's Keyblade was not playable in the browser version of the game. However, in Kingdom Hearts Union Cross, the game's mobile version, it is playable. No Heart. No Heart is an optional boss in the final mix version of Birth by Sleep. It has the appearance of Master Xehanort's Keyblade armor. The player can fight him in the Mirage Arena. Like another, No Heart is also an anagram of Xehanort but without the X. Final Form Firaga. Using Firaga in Kingdom Hearts 2 was already overpowered given its area of effect, stun-locking enemies when hit, and massive damage per second. But utilizing the spell while in final form is another story. The player can spam Firaga and keep the enemy stunned if the finisher wasn't executed. Players can cheese their way out of challenging opponents with the proper timing and lots of ethers. GBA Organization 13 voice actors. Chain of Memories introduced several Organization 13 members in the game's events, those being Axel, Larxene, Merlucia, Vexen, Zexion, and Laseus. The player fought these members during both Sora and Riku's campaigns. In the Game Boy Advance version of Chain of Memories, although the dialogue between characters is inaudible, the player can hear the characters' grunts and attacks during battles. Due to the excellent voice acting of the initial members introduced only during the dubbing of Free Chain of Memories, the original voice actors for the Game Boy Advance counterparts were uncredited and unknown. Mushroom Kingdom Hearts. Mushroom Kingdom Hearts was a fan-made spoof poster showing Sora, Mickey, and Mario. It was posted during the days of Kingdom Hearts 2 and circulated the internet, fooling naive fans. Sora's mom. During the beginning of Kingdom Hearts 1, Sora's mom tried calling him for dinner on the night the Heartless attacked Destiny Islands. The player heard her voice during the cutscene, but Sora's mom never showed her appearance to the player. Her whereabouts and status, like her appearance, are unknown. Labyrinth of Ice is Elsa's palace. In Kingdom Hearts 3, when Sora and his friends visit Arendelle, the group arrives in a Labyrinth of Ice instead of Elsa's frozen palace. While her castle is seen in the cutscenes, it is not accessible to the player, and the nearest Sora and his friends can reach is the Labyrinth of Ice. Birth by Sleep on PS2. A teaser for Birth by Sleep is accessible for players who were able to unlock the secret ending in Kingdom Hearts 2. It shows the Wayfinder trio in their Keyblade armors facing Master Xehanort and Vanitas in the Keyblade Graveyard. In some early trailers of Birth by Sleep, some scenes are set in worlds found in Kingdom Hearts 2. It is possible that during the game's development, the developers reused assets from Kingdom Hearts 2 to produce these early trailers. There can't be two Keyblade Masters. During the first game, it was explicitly stated that there could only be one Keyblade Master, referring to the user of the Keyblade. The Keyblade Master was originally Riku, but the Keyblade then chose Sora as its wielder. In later games, it was then retconned that multiple people may wield a Keyblade, and the Keyblade Master is only a title for users with high proficiency in using the Keyblade and pass the Mark of Mastery exam. With the increase of known Keyblade wielders, the idea of the Keyblade Master in KH1 lost all its meaning. Edgar Rice Burroughs' Family Dispute. Edgar Rice Burroughs is an author best known for his work on Tarzan. With the presence of Tarzan's world, Deep Jungle, in the first Kingdom Hearts game, the family wanted royalties to continue the use of Disney's version of Tarzan. With Disney not wanting to pay the ERB family the royalties asked, they discontinued the use of Tarzan in future games. Revenge Value. The revenge value is an invisible counter that varies within every enemy in the game. The counter increases as the player hits the enemy, and when the limit is reached, it allows the enemy to retaliate. The revenge value prevents the player from performing infinite combos towards enemies. Also, each attack conducted by the player contains a varying value that adds to the enemy's revenge value counter. Aqua's back. During the early stages of Birth by Sleep's development, Aqua's character model has an open back design on her torso. It has a V-cut exposing her lower back. For unknown reasons, probably KH aiming for a child and family-friendly look, her model has been altered, and a small clothing covered her lower back. DM Skip. DM stands for Desperation Move. When an enemy, usually a boss, reaches a certain point in their health bars, the enemy performs a desperation move that hits hard and leaves the player evading rather than attacking the enemy during this phase. However, through various means, players may interrupt or skip the enemy's desperation move, and it is a good strategy for speed running and beating bosses in the shortest time possible. Kingdom Hearts was inspired by Mario 64. As mentioned in an earlier point, the concept of Kingdom Hearts was driven by the thought of another 3D platforming game that could rival the success of Mario 64. Sanctuary Reversed. Sanctuary is the opening song used in the English version of Kingdom Hearts 2 and Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix. Utada Hikaru sung it, the same artist who performed Simple and Clean, Face My Fears, and Don't Think Twice. During some parts of the song, there are inaudible lines. Typically, fans would just assume that these were some Japanese lyrics integrated with the English version of the song, as Utada Hikaru is known for singing bilingually. But some fans took it a step further by reversing the whole song itself. They theorized that the reverse song pertains to Riku's point of view in the story. Some lines say, "He was handsome, and I need more affection than you know." The lines convinced fans that it was Riku's monologue, given the reverse stairway scene in the opening and Riku's campaign in Chain of Memories, Reverse Rebirth. Although nothing was confirmed by the artists or the developers of Kingdom Hearts regarding this, fans still accept this interpretation today. Marluxia was initially a woman. Marluxia is the main antagonist in Sora's story in Chain of Memories. He was closely allied with a fellow Organization 13 member, Larxene. The duo instigated their plans in Castle Oblivion to use Sora as their puppet to defeat the Heartless and eventually gain their hearts. Originally, Marluxia was supposed to be of the female sex, given the character's affinity with flowers. However, the developers did not push through with this as they did not want two traitors to be female. PS4 port glitches. The Kingdom Hearts games before Kingdom Hearts 3 were all on consoles of either the past generations or handhelds. When the games were ported to the PS4 to address the issue of the series' accessibility, fans could uncover various glitches in the port. For example, some movements in the game's physics rely on the frames per second count of the console. With the increase from 30 FPS to 60 FPS in gameplay, moves such as jumps and dashes were affected, losing their height and distance covered respectively. I'm sure that there are many glitches in the port, but the physics change in the game is the one that caught a lot of fans by surprise. Kingdom Hearts 3 Out of Bounds. In Kingdom Hearts 3, players may experience the worlds in the game totally unintended by the developers. With the release of Remind DLC, a mode called Data Greeting, where players may pose different characters and take advantage of the camera feature within the game. However, some fans were able to access previously unreachable areas using the Data Greeting mode. Although you may be able to explore the rooms freely, not all objects within the world have collision detection, so Sora may pass through some of them. Tier 3. Axel dialogue in Chain of Memories. Axel, everyone's favorite rascal within Organization 13, used to speak differently in his debut game, Chain of Memories. We all know that Lee, Axel's somebody, wanted to be immortalized by living through people's minds he encountered. As Axel's favorite quip, "Got it memorized," was not his original line in Chain of Memories. "Commit it to memory" was the original phrase, but the localization team changed his line to better suit his personality of being snarky. I think "got it memorized" fits his style well, and his original line might be a mistranslation or localization incident. The 13th floor belts in Game Boy Advance Chain of Memories. When Sora and friends arrive at the 13th floor of Castle Oblivion, the world of Castle Oblivion uses the same background music as the lobbies in the castle. It gives off an empty vibe with its long notes and haunting hints due to the deep bells accompanying it. However, in Chain of Memories, the bell's pitch was made higher, removing the menacing feel of the original. VCast Fragmented Keys. Aside from the various consoles that the series games were released on, 2 games were planned to be released on mobile phones. However, Disney cancelled these due to technical limitations or other unknown reasons. The first one cancelled was Kingdom Hearts VCast, released on the Verizon Cast phone, hence its name. Disney developed the game, and Square did not participate in VCast's creation. It was released on October 4, 2004, and although accessing this game for its intended hardware is near impossible right now, fans were able to rip the files and emulate this game. The other cancelled game is Kingdom Hearts Fragmented Keys. It started development in 2013, and just like VCast, Square did not participate in its creation. It was supposed to be a free-to-play mobile game that involved item crafting. A fan found only an unverifiable screenshot of the game's title screen. With the picture showing 2 original characters, we can assume that these characters were supposed to be an avatar for the player and can be customized according to the user's liking. Original Roxas concept art. Roxas's original concept art does not resemble Ventus at all. Instead, the original concept art looks precisely like Sora, aside from the angrier expression. He sports a similar short-sleeved hoodie, but with an altered silhouette, giving this version of Roxas a slender torso compared to his final appearance. Only a sketch made by Tetsuya Nomura was released, and the drawing did not include any colors. Thus, we may never know if the original concept was supposed to mirror Sora's color palette or resemble his final color scheme of blonde hair, white, black, and cream with checkered details, and minor hints of red on the decals. Glide is canon. We see Sora's growth in combat abilities and Keyblade proficiency throughout the games. In the latest point of the current timeline, we see Sora perform Keyblade transformations, summon Disney rides, and utilize shotlocks both for transportation and battle. But before this over-the-top skills, Sora's game-changing ability was Glide, which allows players to traverse the platforming structure of the first game. Sora learns to glide in Neverland after sealing the world's keyhole. Due to the ability being explicitly tied with the story via Tinkerbell aiding Sora to fly, this skill is considered canon in the story, just like Sora's ability to wield 2 Keyblades simultaneously and utilize drive forms with the help of his new clothes in Kingdom Hearts 2. Roxas and Axel also learns how to glide when they visit Neverland during the events of 358 over 2 days. Re-Chain of Memories Beta BIOS. In 2016, a beta for Re-Chain of Memories was found and shared on the internet. The beta did not contain any drastic differences between the beta and the final version released of the game. The main differences in the beta is the inclusion of a debug menu. The developers used these menus to test the game before releasing it to the public. Unfortunately, most of the options in the debug menu were in Japanese, making it hard for non-Japanese speaking fans to understand the options right away. Some options were easily understandable, such as changing the FPS limit from 30 to 60 and vice versa. With enough tinkering, players may familiarize themselves with the debug menu and its functions, despite the language barrier. Sora mascot at Disneyland. In 2004, 2 years after the first game's release, Disneyland introduced a Sora mascot to promote the game. Given the stylized proportions of the original character, Disneyland took liberties to bring the character into the real world. The Sora mascot is humanoid and portrays Sora's appearance as closely as possible. The costume department widened the height and width of the limbs to accommodate the adult size of the staff wearing the costume. The immediate feature that may have caught the visitor's attention is his eerie smile. Despite their best efforts, his facial expression was definitely in the uncanny valley. Treasure Planet in Dream Drop Distance. Treasure Planet, a 2002 film, was supposed to be featured in Dream Drop Distance. Assets such as a pirate ship were found in the game's files but were left unused. Another evidence of the almost inclusion of Treasure Planet was the file name of said asset, TP, an abbreviation that strongly supports this claim. As always, the reason for the exclusion is unknown. Dream Drop Distance. When Kingdom Hearts 2 ended and fans were riling for a mainline sequel, Tetsuya Nomura made fools of fans by including the number 3 in the title of some games, albeit 3582 Days and Dream Drop Distance are spin-offs or non-mainline games. Dream Drop Distance was released on the Nintendo 3DS and took advantage of the 3D feature of the system and wittingly made it connected to the game's subtitle. Dream Drop Distance introduced a new level of headache for fans by introducing time travel and sleeping worlds. It strayed away from the relatively straightforward storytelling approach, where each game has self-containing plots. Dream Drop Distance introduced an overarching scheme of Master Xehanort summoning different versions of himself throughout time to bring forth Kingdom Hearts. For many fans, including me, this game was the straw that broke the camel's back. In typical Tetsuya Nomura fashion, he upscaled the stakes with every game but also affected the ridiculousness of the series. I felt disrespected as these changes and retcons, specifically giving everyone Keyblades and the Keyblade Master status being an empty title, made me think that all of the time invested in understanding the lore was wasted for the sake of one-upping the previous games. Stitch's spaceship in Kingdom Hearts 2. Stitch first appeared in Kingdom Hearts 2 as a summon character that aids Sora using his ray gun and ukulele. However, found in the game's files was an unused model of Stitch's spaceship. It is unknown what the intended purpose of this ship is, but Birth by Sleep later reused the model. Drunk Nomura lost source code. The first game was released in 2002 for the PS2. Square had to redevelop the whole game from scratch when the time arrived for its unmissable port to the PS3. The reason for this arduous labor was that the source code for the game got lost. Fans speculate that it was a drunk Nomura that accidentally deleted the original game's source code. Let this be a lesson to you all to archive important files, as this action may save us time in the future. Monsters Inc. and Fantasia in Kingdom Hearts 2. By exploring the debug folder of Kingdom Hearts 2 files, files for Monster Inc. and Fantasia worlds are found. Fantasia was speculated to be included as some files had the FA abbreviation in their file names. Also, in a debug room option written in Japanese, is the title of Monsters Inc., suggesting the creation of a monsters room to debug. The Simpsons game. Kingdom Hearts got reference in a Simpsons game. The reference is Santa's little helper, the family's pet dog, holding an item that looks a lot like a Keyblade. Cavern of Remembrance skip. Cavern of Remembrance is an area added in the final mix version of Kingdom Hearts 2. The area challenges the player's skill in combat and maneuverability based on the additional movement skills granted by leveling up the drive forms. There exists a Cavern of Remembrance skip that bypasses the intentional route of traversing the area through the use of a wall glitch. Sora hangs on to a certain point in an edge and passes through the collision detection of the mentioned edge. He can then move around the void with the use of the aerial dodge ability gained from the master form. With enough drive orbs and ethers, players may use this method if they have not maxed out their drive form abilities. Dabbing. Dabbing was an act similar to planking, where you place your arms sideways and cover your face. In Dream Drop Distance, when Sora performs a particular command, he spins around and performs a dab pose at the end of the sequence. Take note that Dream Drop Distance was released in 2012 and the act of dabbing became a meme in 2015. Fans state that this may be tied to the game's theme of time travel as a meta joke. Mickey's letter to Rabbit. In Kingdom Hearts 1, when Sora arrives at the 100-acre wood, the player may spot a letter signed by Mickey in Rabbit's mailbox. As the player cannot view the contents of the mail, it is unknown why there is a letter from King Mickey. My theory is that the mail was a reused asset, and since the textures for the PS2 version of the game were not that sharp, the developers did not pay any attention to its details. Only in the release of the HD ports was this spotted. Dissidia was a Kingdom Hearts game. According to an interview with Tetsuya Nomura, we made a game where characters from various Final Fantasy games got together to battle, Dissidia. But that was a project we were originally thinking of using for Kingdom Hearts. However, deciding it would be a bad idea to make Disney characters fight each other, it never materialized for Kingdom Hearts and shifted to Final Fantasy. Even this time, we thought that it would be difficult to bring out Disney characters and have them fight each other in multiplayer. We wondered what to do. We arrived at the idea of using Organization 13. Hopefully, Kingdom Hearts original characters such as Roxas and Ansem are given a chance to join future Dissidia games. Big Ben Doors. In Kingdom Hearts 1, after sealing the keyhole in Neverland, the player can obtain treasures in the doors in the Big Ben Tower. The game keeps track of your game hours, and a specific entry is unlocked concerning the number of hours currently logged in your game. The clock reflects this, with the hour hand showing your in-game hours and the minute hand showing your in-game minutes. The player needs to come back 12 times on the 12 numbers in the clock to get all of the items. The bouncer concepts were reused for Kingdom Hearts. As mentioned in a previous point, Bouncer is a Squaresoft game released in 2002 in Japan and 2001 everywhere else. With Bouncer being 2 years older than Kingdom Hearts, some of the former properties were inherited by the latter. An obvious hint is Sora's Kingdom Hearts 1 design, resembling Xion loosely. Tier 4. Phoenix Games Peter Pan. Peter Pan of 2007 is a video game published by Phoenix Games. It was released on the PS2 and is not an interactive game, as it is just a compilation of minigames and scenes that rip off Disney's film version of Peter Pan. Aside from barely passing as a video game, the scenes are horrible. The story does not make sense, animations and voice acting are awful, and outright reusing assets from different media that exist at the time. The only connection of this horrible game to the Kingdom Hearts franchise is the use of Destiny Islands in the game's cover art. Nomura Fried Chicken. Nomura Fried Chicken is taken from a Chain of Memories manga panel. It shows Marluxia and Larxene discussing their plans while eating. As seen in the bucket handled by Marluxia, the word Mura is seen, an obvious nod towards Tetsuya Nomura. Cover art locations. One of my favorite things about the series is the cool-looking cover art drawn by Tetsuya Nomura. It gives off that teenage angst vibe, as it has some influence from the Final Fantasy aspect of the game. Yet, it does not take itself too seriously, or cannot take itself too seriously, given the presence of Disney characters looking all edgy to fit the theme of the cover art. The cover art usually depicts a sky throughout the games, fitting as Sora's name means sky in Japanese. Although some of the motifs in the arts somehow resemble existing worlds, we do not have a definitive location for the setting of the cover arts. The Chasers. The Chasers was a word seen floating in the Japanese version of KH2 Final Mix Secret Ending. However, the term was removed in the English version of the Secret Ending. It is unknown to what or who the word refers to, as we lack the details for its context. Fans suggest that the term was just an idea thrown in for the initial teaser but was never developed into a whole idea, thus its removal in the English version of the Secret Ending. GBA Chain of Memories cutscene assets in Kingdom Hearts 2. Character models used in the original Chain of Memories are present in Kingdom Hearts 2's game files. Perhaps, the pre-rendered cutscenes in Chain of Memories were created using the same engine that Kingdom Hearts 2 runs on. Dive to the Heart is a world. Dive to the Heart is a location that only the protagonists we have control of at the time have access to. It is suggested that Dive to the Heart is a world within the dream of a character, as we only see them facing to this location when they are asleep in the real world. Bon Jovi. When browsing YouTube, KH fans may stumble upon videos with an anime music video-esque appeal. But instead of the usual Linkin Park songs, these Kingdom Hearts fan-made AMVs are accompanied by Bon Jovi songs. I'll show a preview of such AMV, but would mute the song to avoid copyright claims. Kingdom Hearts 3 Anti-Piracy Message. With the release of Kingdom Hearts 3 and other Kingdom Hearts games on the PC, it became more accessible to a different segment of gamers. But with the port becoming more accessible, hackers were also able to rip the game's files for modding and data mining. Naturally, piracy is also a direct effect due to this. When gamers tried playing their pirated copies of the Kingdom Hearts 3 game, they were met with a message. The screen was entirely in Japanese. It continues onto the title screen, but the game then closes, and the user receives another prompt in Japanese. Madoka Magica. Kingdom Hearts and Madoka Magica, a grim subversion of the magical girl anime genre, are two entities that I do not think would mix well. But it looks like I am in the minority, as much fan-made media blends the two, from fanfiction to fan art and even a fan-made game. Yozora is Nomura's way of coping with Final Fantasy XV. Aside from Kingdom Hearts, Tetsuya Nomura initially directed Final Fantasy Versus 13, a game that suffered countless delays due to its troublesome development cycle. With the replacement of Tetsuya Nomura as the director, and the game being shifted to Final Fantasy XV instead, Tetsuya Nomura had no outlet for his ideas of Noctis and the story that Final Fantasy Versus 13 was supposed to have. To not let his efforts go to waste, fans theorized that Yozora was Nomura's way of coping with his loss of ownership for Versus 13. He recycled Noctis' design and cutscenes and applied them to Kingdom Hearts 3 Riku and Yozora, a character encountered in the Remind DLC of Kingdom Hearts 3. JB62A.BCD. JB62A.BCD is a file name found in the files of Dream Drop Distance. Like previous world-related files, the file names are abbreviations of the worlds or films they were based on. JB62A.BCD was previously found in the game files of Birth by Sleep, but like Birth by Sleep, it was also unused in Dream Drop Distance. JB probably stands for Jungle Book. BHK. BHK, or Blonde-Haired Kid, is a fan-made name given to the character in the secret ending of the first game. This character was Roxas, and the scene was set in the world that never was, showing his battle with Riku. But due to the character donning the hood of his Organization 13 robe, only the end of his bangs were visible to the player, with the color of his hair being the only notable characteristic presented to the viewer. Thus, the character was dubbed the Blonde-Haired Kid, or BHK in short. Aerosmith. Similar to the point discussing Bon Jovi and Kingdom Hearts, another artist paired with the series in YouTube AMVs is Aerosmith. Marquis de Sade. In the Chain of Memories manga, Larxene is seen in one of the panels reading a book titled Marquis de Sade. Marquis de Sade is an actual book by a French philosopher and writer. It discussed the role of violent sexual tendencies and was the basis for the term sadism. It perfectly captures Larxene's personality, but not appropriate for the manga medium as it was intended for children's consumption. Kingdom Hearts 1 beta trailer models in Kingdom Hearts 2. Like the character models used for the pre-rendered cutscenes in Chain of Memories, Kingdom Hearts 1 beta trailer models exist in Kingdom Hearts 2's game files. How the Beast got to Hollow Bastion in Kingdom Hearts 1. We see the Beast in Hollow Bastion in the later parts of the first game, despite Hollow Bastion not being his original world. He also did not give a concrete explanation of how he got there. All he said was he believed in finding Belle, and his willpower alone teleported him to the place. But upon checking the director's secret report 13, it stated, "The other way is to use a corridor of darkness. These routes are like a loophole of sorts and not pathways that should rightfully be used. While only known as beings of darkness and beings of between can create entries and exits, in rare cases, even other beings such as the Beast and Diz, who held strong sentiment or hatred in their hearts, have been able to open a path themselves. Back then, it was unknown how the Beast got there. It only took 13 years with the release of Kingdom Hearts HD 2.5 Remix and the included director's secret report to explain this incident." Tier 5. Mysterious Voice Identity. This point is vague as there are a lot of instances in the series wherein an unknown entity talks to a particular character. I would do a fast round for this point for brevity's sake. Number 1, the voice at the beginning of Kingdom Hearts 1 was Mickey. Number 2, Diz was the one Roxas was talking to in the Realm of Darkness. And number 3, the enigmatic man optional boss in Kingdom Hearts Final Mix was Semnas. The problem with applying this mysterious voice trope in the series is that it lacks commitment, which grants Tetsuya Nomura the flexibility to change established scenes to better support his future story points. Sure, it's a great way of setting a placeholder later to be filled in when the following stories are further developed. Still, as a fan, it is frustrating as there are no factual premises that we could hold onto, thus adding to the frustration in formulating speculations of future story events. Many worlds interpretation. With the introduction of time travel and the convoluted description of the power of waking, it is a headache trying to understand the universal laws within the Kingdom Hearts series. But because of the loose and ever-changing lore in Kingdom Hearts, fans are also welcome to toss in their hats and try to make sense of all the new information we are getting in the more recent games. The many worlds interpretation suggests that every single decision branches out a new set of universes, resulting in an infinite number of universes. And all of these universes are as real as the others. In application to Kingdom Hearts, all the sleeping worlds in Dream Drop Distance, the different realms, and maybe even Kingdom Hearts itself is a universe parallel to that of the universe we exist in-game. Nomura had it all planned from the beginning. Nomura's storytelling is similar to that of Akira Toriyama, the author of Dragon Ball. Both make things up along the way to continue the hype and to keep the ball rolling. I do not think that Nomura had it planned from the beginning. There are a lot of inconsistencies, retcons, and outlandish concepts to justify the lousy writing present in the series. As a KH fan, I used to read it like gospel and follow every word to its literal meaning. But I have made peace with the series' unpredictable writing style and just choose to enjoy the games as they are. Sora's mom is the master of masters. Mom equals MOM confirmed? Joking aside, I cannot see any supporting evidence regarding this claim except that the abbreviation of Master of Masters is the exact spelling of mom. Human identity of every heartless and nobody. Every somebody is a complete person. When a somebody turns into a heartless, the heart is separated from the body and acts rampant like strong, unsupervised emotions. When the heart leaves the somebody's body, what's left is a nobody. A nobody is an empty husk, and nobodies that used to have strong hearts can retain their humanoid forms. Logically, presented with the explanation above, there should be a 1:1 ratio for heartless to nobodies. But with the concept of nobodies able to grow new hearts introduced, the exact numbers may be inconsistent. World Order Transformation Process. In Kingdom Hearts 1, the concept of World Order is introduced. It states that each world that the party lands on has its own set of principles and truths. With the entry of foreign parties, characters from different worlds, conflict spawns as two other truths can't coexist. Thus, the decision to limit interworld interactions to prevent troubles from arising. With the various worlds visited throughout the games, if the world order concept is to be believed, the story is bound towards more trouble in future events. Kingdom Hearts 1's plot was a scrapped Walt Disney movie. Kingdom Hearts 1's plot has a certain appeal to it. Perhaps it is the nostalgia in me speaking, but I think KH1's story is the best. It is self-contained and does not expect the player to know concepts discussed in other games, as this was a prevalent issue in the series. It is also similar to the plot of a typical Disney movie. From a kid protagonist facing conflict and developing character along the journey that helps him ultimately solve the story's main problem. It is simple and clean, so it shines the brightest. However, due to the formulaic pattern of Kingdom Hearts 1's story, fans theorized that the plot was simply a scrapped Disney movie. Of course, we cannot approve nor disapprove this claim. Sora's dad. We know that Sora has a mom, as we heard her speak when calling Sora for dinner. Sora's father shares the same status as his mother of being acknowledged yet unseen by the player. In Birth by Sleep, when Terra asks the young Riku and Sora how they got to the island, Riku says that it was the help of Sora's dad. Yen-Sid equals Disney. Yen-Sid is an anagram of Disney. Yen-Sid is Walt Disney's nobody confirmed? And that's it for the Ultimate Kingdom Hearts Iceberg. I may have missed a lot of points as the naming was too vague or I could not find the search results given the limited context. These points are out of character, Joe Williams, end of the world true location, 3DS post office package emblems, we have to save Sora, immune keyholes, ITA Xehanort, Halloween Town mob skip. If you know the explanation for the mentioned points, or would like to correct me on my interpretations, please do so by commenting down below. Also, if you want to be notified when the next video comes out, why not give a starting YouTuber a chance by subscribing and hitting the bell icon. Thank you so much. My name's Coriente King. Got it memorized? Thank you so much for watching.
Like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Let me know what subject you want me to cover next. Again, this is Coriente King. Thanks for watching and have an awesome day.